Hi everyone, my name is Fiona. I'm a junior year nursing student and my project is on proposing inclusion of training on intimate partner violence with university residential life staff. So before I start, IPV or intimate partner violence is physical, sexual, or emotional violence and psychological harm by a current partner or spouse, and that's defined by the CDC. So this project aims to evaluate the effectiveness of an educational intervention implemented among university residential assistant staff to improve their ability to identify and intervene in situations involving IPV. RA staff at universities are frequently the individuals that students will come to when they're having issues at school, whether those be academic or personal issues. A lot of kids who are living away from home for the first time as freshmen might feel comfortable with these people. So it's really important that RA staff is knowledgeable about IPV, which is really common, unfortunately, on college campuses. But after conducting a literature review, I found that most people who find themselves in situations where they might be dealing with IPV feel really unprepared to intervene or even identify those who would be at risk. So this project is aiming to change that. So a literature review was conducted on peer review articles, and the evidence concluded that using a pretest to evaluate current knowledge on IPV, having participants attend a training session on IPV, and then using a post-test to evaluate an increase in knowledge was a very effective intervention method. So I'm proposing an intervention similar to this using the same framework to better prepare RA staff to deal with intimate partner violence on college campuses. And I use the FADE framework, which stands for Focus, Analyze, Develop, and Execute, to come up with a general idea of what that might look like. So for the literature review, I took a look at 3 sources in particular that were studies that implemented an educational intervention for healthcare workers. Because healthcare workers are people who frequently encounter IPV, but a lot of the people in the studies, a large number of the people in the studies, reported feeling really underprepared. And this is an issue that people deal with in emergency rooms and healthcare all the time. So it's, again, just like the RA staff, really important to know about this. So after looking at those 3 studies, the intervention that showed the highest increase in knowledge out of those 3 different interventions, highest increase in knowledge and confidence, involved a pretest educational session and a post-test. Other sources that I took a look at were on college students' perceptions and attitudes towards relationship violence in order to identify a need for this proposal. I found that as people age, they're less likely to tolerate relationship violence, which makes college students a vulnerable population. College-age males, as well as those who had previously engaged in aggression and relationship violence, were also more likely to engage in victim blaming as compared to females and those who had not engaged in violence. So you can see there's a need for an educational intervention for RA staff because this is a common issue, unfortunately, for a college-age population. So for the proposed educational intervention using the FADE framework, the F, which stands for focus, is as follows. The high prevalence of IPV on college campuses and lack of staff confidence and knowledge on this issue warrants a need for an educational intervention on this topic to better prepare staff to help students. So that's the focus, the overall focus of this project is that there's a prevalence of IPV and there's a need for this project. The A, which stands for analyze, which is analyzing what needs to be done, is as follows. The literature review that was conducted identified that those who had not previously received training on IPV felt unprepared to intervene and did not have confidence in their knowledge. So this is showing that people who are encountering IPV in their workplace just don't really feel prepared to actually intervene and ask the people they're working with, are you experiencing this issue? So again, there's a need for it. The D stands for develop. So for developing this intervention, an educational intervention incorporating how to identify IPV and appropriately intervene will be developed to better prepare RA staff for such situations. A pre-test and post-test will be used to evaluate knowledge gained from the educational intervention. And the E, which is execute, is as follows. RA staff will be trained on IPV using this educational intervention before students move into the residential halls, and if it can be concluded that the intervention was successful, the university may consider making a permanent change to their RA staff training. RA staff will be encouraged to report if they use the skills they've learned and whether they feel that the education they received was helpful, so alterations can be made to the program as needed. So in conclusion, there is significant evidence from the literature review indicating that educational interventions are really effective in a healthcare population, particularly the one using the pretest educational session and post-test. And this can be really easily translated over to a different population, such as the RA staff, because the healthcare population found that that framework of like a pretest and post-test was really helpful in gauging their knowledge, and the educational session was effective. So this can just be replicated for RA staff. So the significance of this project is that RA staff who have gone through IPV training will be better able to identify and help students in need. So by implementing this intervention, the university will be proactively tackling this difficult topic, which will make progress towards reducing the prevalence of relationship violence on college campuses. Staff who are trained can provide support and refer students who are experiencing IPV to the appropriate resources with the goal of preventing further harm from this issue. So this is an issue I think is really important. I don't think that we talk about it enough, and it can be really difficult to talk about. So I think that having this training for RA staff would be really helpful in just working towards making this an issue that is just, we can talk about it and have open conversations about it, and it will help to reduce harm for students who are experiencing this issue if the people who they're looking up to and coming to for help are appropriately trained. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. I hope you learned something new, and thank you for listening.